Chapter 5 of the Bird Study Book. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Bird Study Book by T. Gilbert Pearson. Chapter 5. The Birds in Winter. With the approach of winter, the country loses its charm for many people. The blossoms and verdure, so common yet so beloved by all, have departed, and only the brown expanses of dead grass and weeds relieve the blackness of the forest trees. Even ardent nature lovers have been known to forsake their walks at this season, when the songs of the birds have ceased, and the forest boughs give forth only sobs and shrieks as they sway to the strength of the north winds. A good time for field walks. Nevertheless, winter is a good time for the bird student to go afield. If the wild life is less abundant, so is the human life, and you have the country almost to yourself. If you but say in your heart, "I will go and see what may be found," you will later rejoice, for with the falling of the leaves many of Nature's secrets, which she has jealously guarded through the summer months, stand revealed. Among the naked branches of the briars you may find the catbird's nests, which defied all search last June. It will be a comfort to learn that the bird really did have a nest just about the place you thought it was located. Many other pleasing surprises await you in the winter woods. The Downy's Winter Quarters. One late autumn day I stopped to watch a junco feeding among some weed stalks near a hillside trail. After remaining motionless for a minute or two, I became conscious of a light muffled tapping somewhere near by. It did not take long to locate the sound. On the underside of a slanted decayed limb, 20 feet above, was a new, well-rounded hole, perhaps an inch in diameter. Even as I looked, the occupant came to the entrance and threw out a billful of small chips. When these fell, I saw that the dead leaves on the earth beneath had been well sprinkled by previous ejections of the same nature. I had discovered a downy woodpecker at work on his winter bedroom, and later I had reason to believe that he made this his nightly retreat during the cold months that followed. Chancing to pass this way one dark cloudy morning, it occurred to me to look and see if he had yet left his bed. Striking the limb near the hole, I was rewarded by seeing a little black and white head poked out inquiringly. Fearing he might be resentful if such treatment were repeated, I never afterward disturbed my little neighbor while he was taking his morning nap. But I had learned this much, that one downy at least sometimes liked to be abed on cold mornings. Perhaps he knew that there was no early worm about at this season. Birds and the Night. It may be that others of our winter birds also make excavations for sleeping quarters. The chickadee and nuthatch very probably do so, although I have never found them thus engaged. It is well known that many small birds creep into holes to pass the night. Old nesting places of woodpeckers are thus again rendered useful, and many of the natural cavities of trees contain, during the hours of darkness, the little warm pulsating bodies of birds. Quails invariably roost on the ground regardless of the time of year, or the prevailing weather conditions. An entire covey numbering sometimes 12 or 15 will settle for the night in a compact circular group with heads pointed outward. When a heavy snow falls they are completely buried, and then if a hard crust forms before morning, their roosting place becomes their tomb. Grouse now and then are trapped in the same way, but their superior strength enables them to break through and escape. In fact, these larger birds often deliberately go to roost beneath the snow, breaking through the crust by a swift plunging dive from the air. Bearing these facts in mind, it is easy to understand why quails often become scarce in a country where grouse abound. Small birds pass the winter nights in evergreens, thick-growing vines, under the eaves of verandas, or on the rafters of bridges. Many creep into cracks of outhouses. I have found them at night in caves, barns, and once in a covered wagon. Almost any available shelter may have its bird tenant on cold nights, who, if undisturbed, will often return again and again to the refuge it has once found safe and comfortable. Birds that pass the winter in the northern states are subjected to many hardships. In fact, the fatalities in the bird world in winter are so great, and the population so constantly reduced by one form of tragedy or another, that it is only the stronger and more fortunate individuals of a species that survive to enjoy the summer. The food question in winter. Where to secure the food is the big question which confronts every bird when it opens its eyes on the first snowy morning of winter. Not only has the whole aspect of the country been changed, but the old sources of food have passed away. Not a caterpillar is to be found on the dead leaves, and not a winged insect is left to come flying by, hence other food must be looked for in new directions. Emboldened by hunger, the starlings alight at the kitchen door, and the juncos, sparrows, downy woodpeckers, and nuthatches come to feed on the windowsill. Jays and meadowlarks haunt the manure piles or haystacks in search of fragments of grain. Purple finches flock to the wahoo elm trees to feed on the buds, and crossbills attack the pine cones. Even the wary ruffed grouse will leave the shelter of the barren woods, and the farmer finds her in the morning sitting among the branches of his apple tree, relieving the twigs of their buds. In every field a multitude of weed stalks and stout grass stems are holding their heads above the snow, tightly clasping their store of seeds, until members of the sparrow family shall thrash them out against the frozen crust beneath. Among those which are forced to become largely vegetarian in winter is the bluebird. In summer he is passionately fond of grasshoppers, cutworms, and arctia caterpillars, but now he wanders sadly over the country of his winter range in quest of the few berries to be found in the swamps and along the hedgerows. The crow is another bird often met in winter walks, for he, too, in many cases spurns the popular movement southward in the fall, and severe indeed must be the weather before he forsakes his former haunts. You will find him feeding along the banks of streams, or in the open spots in the fields, or again in the woods pecking rotten stumps or fallen limbs in search of dormant beetles. 55 species of warblers inhabit North America. These birds are insectivorous in their feeding habits, which of course also means that they are migratory. A partial exception to the rule is found in the common myrtle warbler. Although in winter these birds range south to Panama, many remain as far north as New Jersey, Kansas, and the Ohio Valley. This does not mean that insects are found in these regions in sufficient numbers to supply the larder of the myrtle warblers, but it does mean that they find acceptable substitutes for their usual food. Oddly enough, what they depend on is not animal matter in any form, but consists of berries which contain some of the essential food properties of fatty meats. One of the most popular with them is the common bayberry. Among the sand dunes of the extensive banks along the North Carolina coast there grows in great profusion a small bushy tree known as the yaupon. The young leaves of this, when dried and steeped, make a very acceptable drink, and during the hungry days of the Civil War, when the Federal blockade became effective, the people of the region used this as a substitute for tea and coffee. The yaupon produces in great abundance a berry that is so highly esteemed by the myrtle warblers that they pass the winter in these regions in numbers almost incredible. When the food supply fails. It is hard to realize the extent of havoc wrought among the birds by cold, snowy weather. Early in the year 1895 a long, severe cold spell, accompanied by snow and sleet, almost exterminated the bluebird in the eastern United States. The bodies of no less than 24 of these birds were found in the cavity of one tree. It looked as if they had crowded together with the hope of keeping warm. It was not the cold alone which had destroyed the birds. A famine had preceded the cold snap, and the birds, weakened by hunger, were ill prepared to withstand its rigors. One winter some years ago a prolonged freezing wave swept over our South Atlantic states and played havoc with the woodcock in South Carolina. This is what happened. The swamps in the upper reaches of the Pee the Black, and the Waccamaw rivers were frozen solid, and the woodcock, that in winter abound in this region, were thus driven to the softer grounds farther downstream. The cold continued, and the frozen area followed the birds. The woodcock, unable to drive their long bills into the once responsive mud, were forced to continue their flight toward the coast in search of open ground where worms could be found. When at length they reached Winyaw Bay, where these rivers converge, they were at the point of exhaustion. Thousands of the emaciated birds swarmed in the streets and gardens of Georgetown. They were too weak to fly, and negroes killed them with sticks and offered baskets of these wasted bodies, now worthless as food, for a few cents a dozen. Several shipments were made to northern cities by local marketmen, who hoped to realize something by their industry. Of the wild ducks which remain north in the winter, many die because of the freezing of the water in which they must dive or dabble for their food. On the morning of February 11, 1912, Cayuga Lake in western New York State was found to be covered with a solid sheet of ice from end to end. It is a large body of water, having an area of nearly 67 square miles. It rarely freezes over, only once in about 20 years, as the records show. The ducks inhabiting the lake at this time were caught unawares. Many of them moved quickly to more southern waters, but others tarried, evidently hoping for better times. Subsequently a few air holes opened, and the ducks gathered about them, but there was little food even here, and numbers starved to death. One observer who went out to the air holes reported examining the bodies of 28 canvasbacks and 19 scaups, in addition to many others such as redheads and golden eyes. His survey was not exhaustive, and the gulls had doubtless removed many bodies from the territories he visited. When the surface of the lakes and bays freezes suddenly in the night, ducks are sometimes caught and held fast by the ice adhering to their feathers and legs. In this condition they are utterly unable to escape the attacks of man and beast, and in the latitude of New York captures in this way are now and then reported. Wild fowl destroyed in the oil fields. In the oil fields of the Southwest and Old Mexico, the surface of many ponds is covered with oil into which unsuspecting flocks of ducks alight, never again to emerge until their dead bodies drift to the shore. It was on November 27, 1912, that the naval tank ship Arethusa steamed into the harbor of Providence, Rhode Island, with a cargo of crude oil. For several days following, her bilge pumps sent overboard a continuous stream of water and oil seepage. On December 3rd, the following news item appeared in the Providence Daily Bulletin. The east shore of the lower harbor and upper bay, from Wilkes-Barre Pier to Riverside and below, is strewn with the bodies of dead wild ducks, which began to drift ashore yesterday. The wildfowl came into the bay in enormous flocks about the middle of November, and have since been seen flying about or feeding in the shallow water, as is usual at this time of year. As no such amount of oil, it is believed, was ever let loose into the bay at one time before, and as ducks along the shore dead from poisoning have never been seen before, it is reasonable to connect the two occurrences. Hunting winter birds. Birds are to be found in winter in nearly every neighborhood, and it is astonishing under what adverse natural conditions one may find them. As I write these lines on a dark February afternoon here in New York City, I can see through the window a starling sitting ruffled up on the bare twig of an elm tree. Every minute or two he calls, and as he is looking this way perhaps he is growing impatient for the little girl of the house to give him his daily supply of crumbs. A few minutes ago there was a downy on the trunk of the same tree, and out over the Harlem River I see a flock of herring gulls passing, as their custom is in the late afternoon. Several years ago Dr. Frank M. Chapman sent out a notice to bird students that he would be pleased to have them make a record of the birds to be seen in their different neighborhoods on Christmas. Many responded, and he published their reports in his magazine, Bird Lore. This aroused so much interest that bird observers all over the country now have a regular custom of following this practice. In the January-February 1916 issue of Bird Lore appears the results of the last census, which was taken on December 25, 1915. By examining this, one may get a good idea of the birds to be found in various communities at this season. Some of the lists were very large, 93 specimens being noted in the one sent by Ludlow Griscom from St. Marks, Florida. The largest number reported by any of the observers was 221, seen in the neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. The following are reports from typical sections. Wolfville, N.S., December 25th, 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Cloudless. 5 inches of light snow, no wind. Temperature 30 degrees. Herring gull, 2. Black duck, 100. Canada ruffed grouse, 4. Downy woodpecker, 1. Northern raven, 1. Crow, 6. Goldfinch, 11. Vesper sparrow, 1. Collected for positive identification. Black-capped chickadee, 7. Acadian chickadee, 2. Golden-crowned kinglet, 5. Total, 11 species, 140 individuals. December 20th, a flock of 8 to 10 American crossbills. R. W. Tufts. Tilton, New Hampshire. December 25th, 8:20 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Cloudy, changing to light rain, a little snow on ground, wind light, southeast, temperature 38 degrees. Blue jay, 1. White-breasted nuthatch, 1. Chickadee, 6. Golden-crowned kinglet, 2. Total, 4 species, 10 individuals. Birds seem unusually scarce this winter. George L. Plimpton, and Edward H. Perkins. Bridgewater, Massachusetts. December 25th, 8 to 10 a.m. Cloudy, ground bare, wind southeast, moderate. Temperature 27 degrees to 42 degrees. Red-tailed hawk, 2. Northern flicker, 3. Blue jay, 3. American crow, 80. Starling, 6. Meadowlark, 2. Goldfinch, 7. Junco, 5. Song sparrow, 42. Swamp sparrow, 2. Myrtle warbler, 50. Brown creeper, 2. Chickadee, 50. Golden crowned kinglet, 3. Total, 14 species, 256 individuals. Horace A. McFarlane. Fairfield, Connecticut. Birdcraft Sanctuary, 10 acres. December 25th. Herring gull, 4. Red-tailed hawk, 2. Sparrowhawk, 1. Hairy woodpecker, 1. Downy woodpecker, 5. Blue jay, 4. Crow, 8. Starling, flock of 50. Meadowlark, 2. Purple finch, 10. Goldfinch, 3. White-throated sparrow, 4. Tree sparrow, 15. Junco, 30. Song sparrow, 7. Fox sparrow, 1. Myrtle warbler, 12. Brown creeper, 3. White-breasted nuthatch, 2. Chickadee, 10. Golden crowned kinglet, 5. Robin, 2. Total, 22 species, 181 individuals. Frank Novak, Warden. New York City, Central Park, December 25th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Cloudy, ground mostly bare with some remaining patches of snow. Wind southeast, light. Temperature 45 degrees to 54 degrees. Herring gull, 70. Black duck, 1. Downy woodpecker, 2. Starling, 24. Junco, 4. Song sparrow, 2. Cardinal, 2. Chickadee, 5. Total, 8 species, 110 individuals. Mr. and Mrs. G. Clyde Fisher. Rhinebeck, New York, December 25th, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Cloudy, deep snow, wind south, light. Temperature 40 degrees. American merganser, 2. Ring-necked pheasant, 30. Gray partridge, 5. Marshhawk, 1. Barred owl, 1. Hairy woodpecker, 4. Downy woodpecker, 8. Drums and utters long call. Yellow-bellied sapsucker, 1 male. Blue jay, 10. Crow, 15. Purple finch, 15. Goldfinch, 6. Junco, 12. Song sparrow, 1. Tree sparrow, 13. Brown creeper, 3. White-breasted nuthatch, 20. Chickadee, 25. Whistles. Total, 18 species, 171 individuals. Mrs. J. F. Goodwell, Tracy, Dowse, and Mansell S. Crosby. Hackettstown, New Jersey. December 25th, 8:30 to 10:45 a.m. and 2:15 to 4:50 p.m. Fair. Remains of 16 inches snow, ground partly bare, partly with deep drifts. Temperature 20 degrees. Pheasant, 2. Sparrowhawk, 1. Downy woodpecker, 4. Blue jay, 1. Crow, 4. Starling, 11. Meadowlark, 13. Goldfinch, 1. Tree sparrow, 6. Junco, 14. Song sparrow, 3. Brown creeper, 2. White-breasted nuthatch, 2. Chickadee, 11. Golden crowned kinglet, 1. Robin, 1. Bluebird, 2. Total, 17 species, 79 individuals. Mary Pearson Allen. Doylestown, Pennsylvania, December 25th, 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Fair. Ground snow-covered. Wind southwest. Temperature 40 degrees. Red-shouldered hawk, 1. Sparrowhawk, 1. Hairy woodpecker, 1. Downy woodpecker, 3. Blue jay, 5. Crow, 7. Starling, 10. Meadowlark, 3. Purple finch, 3. Tree sparrow, 8. Junco, 42. Song sparrow, 4. Cardinal, 2. White-breasted nuthatch, 3. Tufted titmouse, 5. Black-capped chickadee, 16. Robin, 1. Bluebird, 2. Total, 18 species, 117 individuals. Doylestown Nature Club, per Miss Elizabeth Cox. Lexington, North Carolina, December 27th, 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Fair to hazy, ground bare, wind southeast to south, light. Temperature 44 degrees to 50 degrees. Mourning dove, 1. Turkey vulture, 21. Sparrowhawk, 1. Downy woodpecker, 1. Yellow-bellied sapsucker, 2. Northern flicker, 9. Blue jay, 12. Crow, 15. Purple finch, 10. Goldfinch, 13. White-throated sparrow, 50. Chipping sparrow, 15. Field sparrow, 30. Slate-colored junco 100, song sparrow 26, fox sparrow 2, towhee 4, cardinal 20, mockingbird 5, Carolina wren 12, house wren 2, long-billed marsh wren 1, white-breasted nuthatch 4, tufted titmouse 4, Carolina chickadee 20, golden-crowned kinglet 3, bluebird 8. Total 27 species, 391 individuals. Theodore Andrews. Columbia, South Carolina, outskirts, December 27th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Clear, ground bare, wind southwest, light, temperature 47 degrees. Black vulture 30, red-tailed hawk 2, red-headed woodpecker 6, flicker 1, blue jay 12, goldfinch 7, white-throated sparrow 15, slate-colored junco 35, song sparrow 6, red-eyed towhee 3, loggerhead shrike 1, mockingbird 3, Carolina wren 7, brown creeper 1, Carolina chickadee 8, golden-crowned kinglet 2, ruby-crowned kinglet 8. Total 17 species, 147 individuals. Bell Williams. Tampa, Florida, December 26, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 2 to 5 p.m. Clear, wind northwest, steady, tide out all day, temperature 40 degrees. Laughing gull 1, Bonaparte's gull 1, brown pelican 9, lesser scaup 75, Ward's heron 2, little blue heron 5, killdeer 15, mourning dove 3, turkey vulture 10, black vulture 4, marsh hawk 1, bald eagle 1, kingfisher 1, red-headed woodpecker 1, Florida blue jay 5, towhee 1, tree sparrow 14, loggerhead shrike 6, myrtle warbler 20, yellow-throated warbler 1, palm warbler 60, prairie warbler 1, mockingbird 12, house wren 2, ruby-crowned kinglet 2, blue-gray gnatcatcher 3. Total 26 species, about 360 individuals. Mrs. Herbert R. Mills. Rantoul, Illinois, December 25th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Cloudy, wind northwest strong, temperature 22 degrees. Prairie hen 40, mourning dove 2, Cooper's hawk 2, red-tailed hawk 1, red-shouldered hawk 1, American rough-legged hawk 5, American sparrowhawk 1, short-eared owl 3, screech owl 1, northern downy woodpecker 5, yellow-bellied sapsucker 2, northern flicker 2, horned lark 60, prairie horned lark 30, blue jay 15, bronze crackle 2, Lapland longspur 4, tree sparrow 200, junco 100, song sparrow 8, swamp sparrow 2, cardinal 16, brown creeper 1, white-breasted nuthatch 10, red-breasted nuthatch 4, tufted titmouse 30, chickadee 24, golden-crowned kinglet 4. Total 28 species, 575 individuals. George E. Ekblaw and Eddie L. Ekblaw. Youngstown, Ohio, December 25th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Rain nearly all day. Wind southerly, brisk at times. Temperature 46 to 33 degrees. Walked about 10 miles. Ruffed grouse 2, barred owl 1, great horned owl 2, hairy woodpecker 6, downy woodpecker 30, red-bellied woodpecker 1, blue jay 21, goldfinch 4, tree sparrow 54, slate-colored junco 4, song sparrow 20, cardinal 25, winter wren 1, brown creeper 4, white-breasted nuthatch 50, red-breasted nuthatch 2, tufted titmouse 25, chickadee 133, golden-crowned kinglet 29, wood thrush 1. Total 20 species, 424 individuals. The wood thrush was possibly crippled, but could fly quite well. George L. Fordyce, Volney Rogers, C.A. Leedy, and Mrs. Willis H. Warner. Westfield, Wisconsin, December 22nd, 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. Cloudy, ground covered by light snow, wind south, light. Temperature 30 degrees. Ruffed grouse 1, downy woodpecker 2, blue jay 3, goldfinch 40, tree sparrow 20, white-breasted nuthatch 3, chickadee 12. Total 7 species, 81 individuals. Patience Nesbit. Omaha, Nebraska, December 25th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Clear till noon. 1 inch of snow with bare spots. wind light, south, temperature 20 to 32 degrees. Open woods and parks just west of town, walk north 5 miles. Hairy woodpecker 1, downy woodpecker 7, blue jay 8, goldfinch 2, pine siskin 1, tree sparrow 75, slate-colored junco 20, cardinal 2, white-breasted nuthatch 3, chickadee 26. Total 10 species, 145 individuals. Solon R. Town. Denver, Colorado, December 25, 2:20 to 4 p.m. Partly cloudy, ground with some snow, wind west, strong, temperature 45 degrees to 55 degrees. Ring-necked pheasant 11, marsh hawk 1, orange-shafted flicker 9, magpie 75, red-winged blackbird 750, meadowlark 4, housefinch 35, tree sparrow 60, Shufeld's junco 3, pink-sided junco 1, gray-headed junco 18. Total 11 species, 967 individuals. W. H. Bergtold. Escondido, California, December 25, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Partly cloudy, temperature 65 degrees. Killdeer 30, valley quail 100, mourning dove 20, western red-tailed hawk 1, desert sparrowhawk 2, barn owl 2, burrowing owl 3, California screech owl 1, red-shafted flicker 3, black-chinned hummingbird 3, Arkansas kingbird 9, Say's phoebe 4, black phoebe 2, California jay 4, western meadowlark 75, brewer's blackbird 150, housefinch 200, willow goldfinch 50, Anthony's towhee 35, phainopepla 1, California shrike 8, Audubon's warbler 30, western mockingbird 10, Pasadena thrasher 3, California bush tit 20, pallid wren tit 6, western robin 25, western bluebird 10. Total 38 species, 805 individuals. Fred Gallup. End of Chapter 5.